We come from and live on land considered sacred by indigenous people known as Bannock, Paiute, Shoshone, and many other tribes that lived here sustainably for thousands of years. We strive to understand and reframe our responsibilities to land, to community. In the spirit of respectful reciprocity, we honor the original caretakers of this place. We affirm the relationships we have to each other, including our relations to animals and insects that inhabit the water, land, and sky. We recognize the relationship, the responsibility to quiet creeks, rushing rivers, rustling grasses, to sprawling forests, to the brilliant palettes of the sky, to the roots that grip the soil, to the earth beneath our feet. Water is life. To all of us affected by the boarding school revelations, may we be granted compassionate understanding. May we find healing in the harm that lives in our history. We honor and support the right to sovereignty for our indigenous neighbors. We acknowledge that a land acknowledgement is not enough. Now, let us breathe together. Let us take a moment to enjoy the delicious air, the oxygen provided by tree. Hold to the warm light of sun. Consider the solidity, the groundedness of earth. Flow with refreshing, life-giving water. Let the mud settle. Find clarity of mind and spirit. Welcome our ancestors. Enjoy this present moment together.
Good morning. Welcome to the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I am Sharene Watsen, the celebrant for today's service. I am joined by Jonathan Dover, who will be giving today's sermon. Jonathan is an engineer by day and an aspiring writer by night. Joining our community about a year ago, he is excited to continue exploring his creativity and raising his first child due in August. Our minister is the Reverend Sarah Lawal, and she is on vacation for part of the summer. This is a community gathered to nurture spiritual growth, real connection, and faithful action for a better world. All who join us in the spirit of curiosity, love, and justice are welcome this morning. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your life's journey, your presence is a blessing. Whether you are here every Sunday, once or twice a year, or here this morning for the first time, we're glad you're here. Welcome to those of us joining us virtually. If you guys want to turn around and say hello to everyone. Good morning. We are so glad you are out there and reminding us that our community extends beyond these walls and that we all worship together. We know it takes a lot of courage to check out a new community. So, to our newcomers, we're especially glad you're with us this morning. We invite those of you online to introduce yourselves in the chat. And if you are here in person, please join us in our fellowship time after the service, which will be down in that wing. We also invite you to fill out a newcomer card so we can keep you connected with all that is happening in our fellowship. I want to extend a big thank you to our hospitality hosts for today, Debbie Foster, Sarah Lawson, and Rob Ham. I encourage you to sign up to bring treats and make coffee for future weeks. If you would like to provide coffee or treats, there's a sign-up sheet on the counter in the hospitality suite, and you will get some training so you know how to help out. Our fellowship donates 25% of our unpledged plate offering to support a local organization whose mission aligns with our social justice ministries. For the month of July, it is our very own Pay It Forward Fund, or PIF. The Reverend Elizabeth Green Pay It Forward Fund was created several years ago to address a need among our own Booth community for short-term emergency financial assistance. It is available to support Booth members and friends through the generosity of those who donate. Over the years, funds have helped members and friends stay in their homes, pay for groceries, utilities, medical expenses, and other basic needs of living. There are many ways you can make a financial gift, as you can see on the screen, on our website, the Vanco app, or in person using the drop boxes, which are located on each side. However you choose to give, you nurture our community, and we are grateful. In today's service, we'll explore how compassion can guide us through loneliness and transformation, even when things feel hopeless.
As we enter into this time of worship, let us take a moment to breathe together. Fill your body with breath, knowing that our breath connects us to one another, to our bodies, and to our planet. Our breath offers us the opportunity for stillness, to tune into our spiritual center, to listen deeply to our heart's own longing. Thou art the song of my heart in the morning. Thou art the dawn of truth in my soul. Thou art the dew of the roses adorning. Thou art the woven whole. Thine is the grace to be steadfast in danger. Thine is the peace that none can destroy. Thine is the face of the need-driven stranger. Thine are the wings of joy. Thou art the deep to the deep in me calling. Thou art a lamp where my feet shall tread. Thy way is steep past the peril of falling. Thou art my daily bread. Thine be the praise of my spirit uplifted. Thou art the sea to each flowing stream. Thine be the days that are gathered and sifted. Thou art the deathless dream.
Nice to see you all.
Yesterday, a child came out to wander, caught a dragonfly inside a jar. Fearful when the sky was full of thunder, and tearful at the falling of a star. Then the child moved 10 times round the seasons, skated over 10 clear frozen streams. Words like, when you're older, must appease him, and promises of someday to make his dreams. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. 16 springs and 16 summers gone now. Cartwheels turn to car wheels through the town. Well, they tell him, take your time, 'cause it won't be long now till you drag your feet too slow the circles down. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round and round in the circle game. So the years spin by, and now the boy is 20. Though his dreams have lost some grandeur coming through, well, there'll be new dreams, maybe better dreams, and plenty before the last revolving year is through. Please join me. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round and round in the circle game, and go round and round and round in the circle game.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. At this hour, in small towns and big cities, in living rooms and ornate sanctuaries, many of our sibling Unitarian Universalists are also lighting a flaming chalice, reminding us that we are part of a great community of faith. We invite a child, or in today's case, an expectant mother, to light the chalice to recognize the children and youth in our community, our responsibility to them, and the future we're building together. As Kendra Dover lights the chalice here in the sanctuary, I invite those of you in our virtual community to light a chalice, if you have one nearby, along with us this morning, and then share in the chat where your chalice is lit. Oops, stay here, stay here.
It is my honor and privilege to introduce you to Kendra Dover, a beloved partner to Jonathan, and just, I'll say beloved member of our community. Kendra loves to sleep, as I bet you can imagine, and to spend time outdoors, especially in hammocks. If you are a fellow nap and hammock lover, check in with Kendra about it afterwards. Kendra, here is your first time chalice lighter pin. Thank you.
With our collective chalices lit in all our spaces, we offer you this call to worship from Cindy Terlazzo called With Love as My Guide. Amidst the swirl of life's challenges, fears, and even moments of crisis, I make time to gaze at the night sky, to see the vastness there, and to remember that this moment in time is but a flicker. Not an inconsequential flicker, for what I do and think now does matter. My work, though, is to let the debris of this world pass by while I anchor myself to what I know is true. Love, kindness, compassion, and caring for this precious life, this precious planet, and all that calls this place home. This is my North Star. With love as my guide, how can I possibly go wrong? Come, let us worship together. As we move into our time for all ages, I invite our children in the room or those young at heart who would like to get a closer view to come up front and join us for today's story that Jem will have on video for us. As we watch, I invite you, keep an eye out for the butterflies and oranges on each page.
What does it mean to be present? By Raina Diorio and illustrator Eliza Wheeler. What does it mean to be present? Does it mean showing up in class? No. Does it mean sharing something at show and tell? No. Does it mean wrapping yourself up? No. Being present means listening carefully when other people are speaking, noticing when someone needs help and taking the time to give them the help they need, focusing on what's happening now instead of thinking what's next. Appreciating what you have, even if someone else has something that seems better. Waiting patiently for your turn. Treating each new experience as an opportunity, and understanding that making mistakes is how we learn and grow. Being grateful for your family and friends and telling them so. Savoring each bite of your favorite delicious food. Cuddling with your puppy or other pet and enjoying how soft and wiggly he feels. Relishing the warmth of the sun and the sound of the rain. Feeling the sand between your toes, watching the rolling waves, smelling the briny seaweed, listening to the cawing seagulls, and tasting the ocean's salty spray. Allowing the rhythm of your breath in and out, in and out, to make you feel peaceful. Closing your eyes and being still enough to hear your inner voice. Being present means living in the moment. Means realizing that yesterday is history and tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. That's why we call it the present. So tell your friends what it means to be present and spread the word. When we're all present, life can be much richer, fuller, and happier. Today in our religious exploration class, children and youth all together, which is 5 years to 12th grade, it's very fun, we are going to dive into the ways that we can use our presence and our mindfulness to behave in compassionate, caring ways to ourselves and others. We are going to create a visual exploration of our covenant. We're going to make a banner that I will show off to you one day. Children and adults, please join me in blessing our beloved community with song, after which we will head to our class.
May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
We will now join together in a community litany by Don Skay Cooley. I will read a line out loud, and your part will be, we let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are. Let's try it together. We let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are. Breathe with me as we begin. Because there have been times when shame has crushed our ability to be wholehearted, we let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are. Because we have not always had the courage to be imperfect, we let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are. Because we have struggled to have compassion for ourselves and for others, we let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are. Because we have been afraid of our own vulnerability, we let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are. Because we are sometimes too scared to live authentically, we let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are. Because we want to be wholehearted people, confident in our worthiness and our belonging, we let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are.
Each week, we take time to acknowledge the joys among us and to grieve our many sorrows and losses, so that we might lift that burden for each other and receive the blessing of this community. As a reminder, you can submit your joys and sorrows online or via the link in our worship email or on our website. Our virtual community can share their joys and sorrows in the chat. It is through our sharing with one another that we forge deep bonds of community and connection. As we begin, let us celebrate this joy today. Jackie Groves and David Morledge are pleased to share they were married at the courthouse on Wednesday, July 5th. If you are holding someone in your heart this morning, I invite you to speak their name aloud into this community of love, that we may hold them with you. May the arms of this community hold all our joys and sorrows, those named and those that remain silent close to our hearts. May we feel the grace that surrounds us and be transformed by the spirit of life and love, with warmth to celebrate our joys and with gentleness to soothe our aching hearts. Breathe with me. Fill your body with breath. Breathe into this sacred space. Breathe with this beloved community filled with loving kindness. Breathe with wholeheartedness and listen to what is calling you. Our reading today is The Inherent Wholeness of Every Being by Erica Hewitt. We who are Unitarian Universalists not only affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we also affirm the inherent wholeness of every being, despite apparent brokenness. No one reading or hearing these words is a stranger to pain. The knowledge that things break or break down promises friendship, sobriety, hope, communication. This breaking happens because our human hearts and our very institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes. Life is messy. Brokenness happens. We are intimately acquainted with brokenness then, even as we believe that no matter how fractured we are or once were, we can make whole people of ourselves. We are whole at our core because of the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love in which we live. As UUs, we believe that paying attention to something is an act of love. Witnessing and naming the brokenness is how we begin to heal it. Some sorrows demand to be named out loud. My sister died. My body is fragile. I'm scared that I won't be able to pay rent this month. The streets in our country are filled with violence. Healing begins when we examine what's in pain, wonder how it occurred, and allow it to teach us. In fact, sometimes the brokenness is immense, and the only power we have over that large and complicated pain looming over us is to bear witness, to tell its story, and to seek out companions and helpers who are willing to agree that, yes, there is something breaking or messy in front of us, and we will not leave or even look away until repair has begun. If love begins with attention, repair takes the form of compassion, bearing witness, speaking out. Repair looks like connection, justice, or even revolution. It looks like after-school tutoring programs, community meals, and holding signs in front of City Hall. And it begins by placing full trust and faith that there is inherent wholeness in every broken situation.
Like many here, I did not grow up in a UU community. I was raised in a rural Bible church. If you were to ask someone on Sunday morning how they would classify themselves, you would probably hear something along the lines of being non-denominational, and that the true Word of God, the Bible, was their foundation. Services were simple and filled with old hymns, prayer requests for rain and good health. Potlucks were regular and were a chorus of excited chatter and competitive slapjack. While I can acknowledge that this particular religion provides comfort to those that practice, including most of my family, I can also acknowledge the tremendous harm that I personally experienced because of it. Even as I write this, I feel so torn in how to describe my experience. I feel the need to do my best to see the good in what happened, to show you all that I have mastered the art of transformation. But honestly, I'm still very angry. I am still angry and I am still full of resentment. A question I keep coming back to is, am I suppressing my anger by trying to see it all in a positive light, or am I refusing to move on by choosing to stay angry? Some of the more damaging ideologies that I was taught, that I was born broken and needed to be fixed, that heaven and hell are very real, and that Jesus was the only thing that could save me from an eternity of torment. That we held the absolute truth and must save, but also fear the rest of the world. The way I experienced these fundamentalist evangelical teachings was traumatic. The sense of needing something outside of myself and needing to have the right answer has followed me my whole life like a ghost. This ghost is there when I catch myself dreaming of millions of dollars just materializing into my bank account, buying a bigger house so I don't feel so trapped, and finally shake this sense of scarcity that doesn't allow me to ever feel secure. I can sense these feelings coming up whenever I find myself getting bored or restless, maybe searching for my next mode of consumption or hobby to pick up. Even though I did all the research, my new rollerblades haven't yet quite made me feel whole yet. But in retrospect, that might be just because I went with the 100-millimeter wheels instead of the 80-millimeter wheels. Ever since I can remember, I was not content being single. I needed to feel like I had that person, the one who would complete me. Ironically, the same ideology that was instilled in me at a young age was the same ideology that drove my deconstruction. I needed to find the ultimate truth of the universe, and I was convinced it could be calculated, displayed on a graph. Maybe then everything would make sense, and maybe then I wouldn't feel so alone. My search for being right and correct led me to what I refer to as my militant atheist phase. It was talks and debates from people like Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and Richard Dawkins that made me feel like I finally had a grasp on the truth. While on paper, I suppose my beliefs still correspond with some form of agnosticism, there is something about this era in my life that doesn't quite sit right with me. Just like I had been doing in my church of origin, I was continuing this pattern of placing what I believed to be the objective truth over the personal experiences of others. It was the same story being told in a new way. Funny enough, this devaluation of personal direct experiences extended to myself, without first granting permission to myself to experience these moments that seem to transcend our humanity, those moments of deep connection and transformation. I wasn't going to be convinced that others could experience them either. Looking back, I can clearly see this repression acting as a barrier to connection and how I've unknowingly used it in so many ways to isolate myself. Even though I've tended to behave like an introvert for most of my life, I've been fortunate to fall into a number of decent friend groups. In high school, I had a couple close friends and felt connected with my Wednesday youth group. Later in college, I was adopted by an extrovert, as is customary for us introverts. A tight-knit group formed and we trudged forward through a mountain of engineering homework together. My first job was all the way out in Nevada, but two of my closest friends joined me. At this point in my life, I had never really thought about intentionally building relationships, and that it was normal to feel this dull sense of loneliness tucked away in the back of your mind while surrounded by friends. I very well could have continued my life with this belief if it wasn't for moving to Boise a few months before March 2020. There was no welcome wagon this time. I made a couple friends, but never really integrated anywhere. Loneliness is a tricky thing. It took me time to even put a name to it. The image that comes to mind is the metaphor of the frog being boiled. There is no specific moment when I could name the start of my depression and loneliness. I was slowly drowning and I couldn't even see it. The combination of the emotional and psychological difficulties that stem from my early life and the circumstances I faced during quarantine came together in a perfect storm. Almost as if the universe was saying, it's finally time to face this. Like a part of me had unconsciously created these conditions with the deep knowing that I would come out of the other side more whole. My tendency to isolate met with the perfect excuse to stay home, literally 24/7. My self-worth tied to the turning of my economic gear met with the sputtering of the engine of capitalism. My inability to feel met with the ease of numbing out. I spent nearly 3 years stuck in a spiral of self-hatred, substance abuse, and depression. I could feel the weight of the depression in my bones. Even now, I can still feel the echo of it in my body. I remember it living in my chest, a bowling ball sucking me into my mattress as my blood turned to lead. I don't know why it stands out to me, but I remember this one night nearly having a panic attack, worried I would run into another person while taking out the garbage. I would wake up tired and dreading the workday, dissociate while staring at my computer screen, terrified of losing my job at any moment. The second I was done with work, I would pop a gummy so I could forget what I was feeling and do it all over again. Less than 4 years ago, I didn't even believe mental health was a thing. Before COVID, if you asked me what I thought about mental health, I probably would have said something like, yeah, I guess people can feel sad sometimes, and that's too bad. But do we really know why they feel sad? Maybe they just need to get more exercise. Maybe they're just looking for attention. When I first started writing this sermon, I was planning on diving into each of the tools that I've used to help get me to where I am now. But after starting to write about therapy, meditation, journaling, creative writing, there was this feeling that I wasn't doing them justice. Like I was coming to show and tell with my favorite things, and I wasn't going to be able to convince others of how cool my toys were. Or maybe that my toys weren't as good as your toys. I found myself looking for poetry by more eloquent authors that I could fill my sermon with. Surely 8 minutes of spoken word from Andrea Gibson would stir something inside you, and you would then realize the healing power of writing your own poetry. I will say that writing has been a powerful tool of healing for myself. I started with basic stream of consciousness journaling, and I slowly learned that acknowledging what I was experiencing wasn't so scary. I started sharing what I was writing with others at a local poetry open mic and witnessed others sharing so openly what I so often would turn away from in myself. Being part of an intentional community like this has shown me that I do not need to be perfect. Every day I've stepped into this building, I've felt held in some way, regardless of if I feel worthy of it or not. Whether it's a simple greeting and smile at the front door, whether I can freely share my anxieties and fears with my meditation group, even every brief hello and kind nod after service is an invitation for me to remember that I belong, and that maybe the conspiracy that everyone secretly hates me is just an illusion. I feel seen when I am invited to share with others, or when I am asked without hesitation to play drums with the choir. Being asked to take on things big and small has been a window into how others might see me. After all, if others see me how I saw myself, who would want to be around me? It has been the capacity of others to peer through my cracked exterior and see the divinity inside that has allowed me to first see my own self-worth and slowly the divinity and the complexity of everyone around me. Now, the evangelical part of my brain still wants to distill some absolute truth from all of this. I want to discover the one true way of thinking that I can share with you all today. The one thing that will free us all from our collective suffering, but I don't think it's so simple anymore. But I have started to notice a pattern. After exploring so many new ways of thinking and meeting so many different people with different life experiences and perspectives, there is a thread I can see woven through my story, the thread of compassion. The moments when I feel connected to my own self-love and self-compassion are when I feel the most grounded. And during the times when I am disconnected from that internal, life-sustaining energy, it is the gift of compassion from others that sustains me. I imagine a net being woven around me, catching me from endlessly drifting in space. At first, I felt like a burden, like it couldn't hold me. But as I sink in, I feel more weightless. I feel myself being woven into the fabric of community and belonging. Now that I can breathe and my chest feels a little lighter, I can meet the eyes of those who want me to be happy. The veil of my shame has thinned enough for me to look past my inner critic and begin to see the divinity within myself and within others. I can aspire to helping catch those drifting alone in space, and not catch them in the snare of a new religion or an ideology, but in the net of radical self-love and radical self-acceptance. This net that I am now a part of goes by many names, and none of them are wrong. Leaving a fundamentalist community is often portrayed as a heroic escape, but any of us who have gone through it know how difficult it can be. I was in a community where I felt alienated because I didn't feel good enough, and I was taught to fear those who might accept me. I invite all of us to remember the power of compassion when we see pain in the world. No one sees themselves as the one causing harm in their own story, or at least that their potential good outweighs the bad. It is shame that keeps us blind to to the harm and the bigotry that perpetuate within ourselves and within our systems. And it is compassion that tenderly shines a light on the parts of ourselves we have yet to fully accept. I invite us to continue this time together in a guided meditation. Let's take a few deep breaths together. Allow your eyes to gently close as you tune into your body. Feel the sensation of breath. Feel your chest rising and falling, maybe your feet resting on the ground. Think of yourself sitting here in this room and know that you are safe. I invite you to say the following to yourself in your mind. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be at ease. Now think about someone that brings you joy. It can be someone in this room, a friend, even a pet. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be at ease. Expand this circle of loving kindness, encompassing all parts of yourself. This room, this city, the whole world. May we all be happy. May we all be safe. May we all be at ease. May it be so. You may stay seated as we continue our meditation and song. Friends, rise in body or spirit for our closing blessing by John C. Morgan. I invite you to place your hands over your hearts and look at the faces of the beloveds near you. Let us bless and keep one another. Let kindness rule in our hearts and compassion in our lives. Until we meet again, blessed are we all. Go in peace.